Dr. Lisa Stone walked into her lab at 6 in the morning, just like she had every day for the past 3 years. The coffee maker was already brewing, and the computers were humming quietly in the corner. She loved these early hours when the building was empty and she could focus on her work without interruptions. Lisa was a brain scientist at the Global Research Institute. For years, she had been studying how the human brain worked during extreme situations. Her latest project involved fighter pilots and test pilots who flew in dangerous conditions. She wanted to understand what made their brains different from regular people. The data from yesterday's test was waiting for her on the main computer. Amy Carter, a test pilot from the nearby air base, had been her subject for the past month. Amy was special. She could fly through storms and dangerous weather better than anyone else in the military. Other pilots called her Storm Rider because she seemed to know exactly where the wind would blow next. Lisa opened the BrainScan files and stared at the screen. Something was wrong with the data, or maybe something was very right. Amy's brain patterns showed connections that should not exist. The electrical activity in her brain was matching the weather patterns outside during her flights. That's impossible, Lisa said to herself. She had been studying brains for 15 years, and she had never seen anything like this. Dr. Kevin Blake walked into the lab 30 minutes later. He was Lisa's research partner and closest friend. Kevin was always skeptical about new discoveries, which made him perfect for double-checking her work. "You're here early again," Kevin said, pouring himself coffee. "Find anything interesting in yesterday's data?" Lisa turned her computer screen toward him. "Look at this, Amy's brain waves from her flight yesterday. Now look at this weather report." From the same time, Kevin studied both sets of data. The patterns were nearly identical. Amy's brain activity spiked exactly when wind speeds changed. When storm clouds formed, certain areas of her brain lit up like Christmas trees. "This has to be a mistake," Kevin said. "Brain waves can't match weather patterns." "That's not how science works." "That's what I thought too," Lisa replied. "But I've checked the data 10 times. The equipment is working perfectly. This is real, Kevin." Kevin shook his head. "Even if the data is correct, what does it mean? Are you saying Amy can predict the weather with her brain?" "I think it's more than prediction," Lisa said quietly. "I think she's connected to it somehow." 300 miles above them, something was watching Earth. The ship was invisible to human technology, about the size of a small building. Inside, War Commander Zethkar studied the blue planet below with growing interest. Zethkar belonged to the Corvani Empire, a race that had conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy. The Corvani were experts at controlling planets. They had massive machines that could change weather, move mountains, and even alter the way planets spun in space. To them, planetary control was a science, and they were the masters. "This world shows promise," Zethkar told his lieutenant. "The atmosphere is thick and easy to manipulate. The dominant species appears primitive. They have not even left their own star system. Shall we begin the conquest protocols, War Commander?" The lieutenant asked. "Not yet. We observe first. I want to understand their defenses before we make contact, though I doubt they have any that could challenge our atmospheric control systems." Back on Earth, Commander Jake Miller was having a bad morning. As leader of the Earth Defense Squadron, he was responsible for protecting the planet from any threats that might come from space. The problem was, most people thought he was preparing for something that would never happen. "Sir, we have another unidentified reading on the long-range sensors," reported Lieutenant Carol Webb from the communications station. Jake looked at the data on his screen. For the past 2 weeks, they had been detecting strange signals from high above Earth. The signals came and went quickly, and they never appeared in the same place twice. Most of his team thought it was just space junk or solar interference. Any idea what it could be? Jake asked. "Negative, sir. The signature doesn't match anything in our database. It's too small to be a natural object, but too advanced to be any known satellite." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had been a soldier for 20 years, and he had learned to trust his instincts. Something was out there, watching them dot at the air base. Amy Carter was preparing for another test flight. She loved flying more than anything else in the world. When she was in the air, everything made sense. She could feel the wind currents, like rivers in the sky. She knew where storms were forming before the weather stations detected them. The strange thing was, lately she felt like she could do more than just sense the weather. Sometimes, when she was flying through clouds, it felt like the clouds were responding to her thoughts. Yesterday, She had been caught in a sudden downdraft that should have been dangerous. Instead of fighting it, she had somehow convinced it to lift her plane gently upward. Amy knew it sounded crazy, so she never told anyone about these experiences. But Dr. Stone's tests were starting to make her wonder if she was really crazy, or if something else was happening. General Roy Adams arrived at the Global Research Institute that afternoon. He was a practical man who did not believe in anything. He could not see and touch. The military had been funding Lisa's research for 2 years, and he wanted to know if they were getting results worth the money. Dr. Stone, he said as he entered her lab, I hope you have something concrete to show me today. The budget committee is asking questions about your project. Lisa took a deep breath. She knew this moment would come eventually. General, I believe we've discovered something that could change how we think about human potential. She showed him Amy's test results, the brain scans, and the weather correlations. General Adams listened without saying a word, but his expression grew more skeptical with each piece of evidence. Doctor, are you seriously suggesting that this pilot can control the weather with her mind? Not control, exactly, but connect with it, influence it in small ways. General, if I'm right about this, we might have discovered a new human ability that we never knew existed. General Adams was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, I'll give you 1 more month of funding, but I want to see a real demonstration, not just data on a computer screen. If this pilot can really do what you claim, prove it. High above Earth, Zethkar made his decision. Tomorrow, he would make contact with the humans and deliver the standard ultimatum: surrender or face the power of Corvani atmospheric control technology. It would be simple and quick, just like all the other worlds they had conquered. He had no idea that far below, a human scientist was unlocking secrets that would challenge everything the Corvani believed about the universe. The morning sky over Washington, D.C. changed color without warning. What started as normal blue suddenly shifted to deep purple, then to an unsettling green that made everyone stop and look up. The change lasted only 30 seconds, but it was enough to send panic through the streets. Commander Jake Miller was in his office when the alerts started flooding in. Every radar station, satellite, and monitoring device on Earth was screaming warnings at the same time. Something massive had just appeared in Earth's upper atmosphere. Sir, we have a situation. Lieutenant Carol Webb called from her station. Multiple large objects have materialized at 40,000 feet altitude. They're huge, sir. Each one is roughly the size of a city block. Jake rushed to the main display screen. The objects were unlike anything humans had ever built. They looked like giant metal flowers with hundreds of spinning parts that moved in perfect harmony. Energy crackled between the structures, and the air around them shimmered like heat waves. Are they ships? Jake asked. We think so, sir. They're definitely artificial, and sir, we're receiving a transmission. The main screen flickered, and suddenly Jake was looking at something that was clearly not human. The being was tall and thin, with gray skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. Its eyes were large and completely black, and when it spoke, its voice came through perfectly clear English. People of Earth, the creature said, I am War Commander Zethkar of the Corvani Empire. We have come to claim this world for our use. Jake felt his blood turn cold, but he forced himself to stay calm. This was the moment every military leader had trained for, but hoped would never come. Your species has reached a level of development that makes your planet suitable for our purposes. Zethkar continued, you will surrender control of your world immediately, or we will demonstrate why resistance is pointless. The transmission ended, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. Around him, his team was frozen in shock. First contact with alien life, and it was an invasion. Give me the president, Jake said quietly, and connect me to every military base on the planet. We're going to war. At the Global Research Institute, Dr. Lisa Stone was watching the same transmission with growing dread, but while everyone else was focused on the threat, she was thinking about Amy Carter and the strange connection they had discovered. Dr. Kevin Blake burst into her lab, his face pale with fear. Lisa, did you see the news? Aliens are here, and they're talking about controlling our planet. What are we going to do? Lisa was already pulling up Amy's test data on her computer. Kevin, look at this. Remember what Amy's brain scan showed? A connection to atmospheric systems. Lisa, this is not the time to think about research. We're being invaded. No, listen to me, Lisa said urgently. Those alien ships, they're doing something to our atmosphere. look at the weather reports coming in. Temperature changes, wind patterns shifting, pressure systems forming where they shouldn't exist. They're controlling our weather. Kevin stared at the data Lisa was showing him. Reports were flooding in from around the world. Sudden storms, temperature drops, and wind patterns that made no scientific sense. The aliens weren't just threatening to control Earth's atmosphere, they were already doing it. If they can control weather, Lisa said, and Amy can somehow connect to weather systems, maybe we have a way to fight back. 3 hours after first contact, President Carol Webb sat in the Situation Room with her top advisors. The alien ships had demonstrated their power by creating a massive thunderstorm over the Pacific Ocean, complete with lightning bolts that struck in perfect geometric patterns. The message was clear: surrender or face the consequences. What are our options? The president asked General Adams. Limited, ma'am. Our best weapons can't reach that altitude effectively. And even if they could, we don't know what kind of defenses those ships have. What about evacuating major cities? Already underway. But these beings can apparently control weather anywhere on Earth. There's nowhere to hide from storms, General. Adams hesitated, then pulled out a file. Ma'am, there might be something else. Dr. Lisa Stone at the Global Research Institute has been working on a project involving human brain connections to atmospheric systems. It sounds like science fiction, but given what we're facing, President Webb looked at the file. Bring her here, immediately, at the airbase. Amy Carter was suiting up for what might be the most important flight of her life. Dr. Stone had called her with an urgent request. Fly up toward the alien ships and see if she could sense what they were doing to the atmosphere. This is insane, said Captain Nick Davis, Amy's squadron leader. We don't know what those things will do if you get too close. I have to try, Amy replied. Dr. Stone thinks I might be able to understand how they're controlling our weather. If there's even a small chance I can help, I need to take it. Nick shook his head, but helped her with her equipment checks. At least take backup. I'm flying with you, Nick. You don't have the same connection to weather that I do. It might be dangerous. Then we'll be dangerous together. I'm not letting you face those things alone. Amy felt a warm surge of gratitude. Nick had always supported her, even when other pilots thought her storm-flying abilities were more luck than skill. 20 minutes later, Amy's fighter jet was climbing toward the alien ships. As she got closer, she began to feel something she had never experienced before. The connection she normally felt to wind and weather was being pulled in different directions, like someone was trying to redirect a river. Amy, are you getting anything? Dr. Stone's voice came through her headset. Yes, but it's wrong, Amy replied. The weather patterns they're creating aren't natural. They're forcing the atmosphere to do things it doesn't want to do. It's like they're using brute force instead of working with the natural systems. Can you counteract it? Amy concentrated, trying to feel the storm system the aliens had created. It was powerful, but rigid, following predetermined patterns without any flexibility. Maybe, she said. Their control is strong, but it's not smart. They're like someone playing piano by hitting all the keys at once instead of playing a melody. Suddenly, alarms started going off in Amy's cockpit. One of the alien ships had noticed her approach and was targeting her with some kind of energy beam. Amy, get out of there, Nick shouted over the radio. But instead of running, Amy did something that surprised everyone, including herself. She reached out with her mind toward the storm system around the alien ship and gently nudged it. The energy beam bent away from her plane, deflected by a sudden wind current that appeared from nowhere. Did you see that? Dr. Stone's excited voice came through the headset. Amy, you just deflected their weapon using weather control. Amy was breathing hard, amazed at what she had done. I can feel their system now. It's powerful, but clumsy. They're controlling the weather like it's a machine. But weather isn't a machine. It's alive, and it doesn't like being forced. Back on the ground, Lisa was frantically taking notes. Amy, can you do it again? Can you interfere with their weather? Control? I think so, but only in small ways. Their system is much more powerful than what I can do. But Lisa, I don't think I'm the only one who can do this. What do you mean? When I touched their storm system, I could sense something else. Other minds. Other people who have the same connection I do. They're all over the world, and most of them don't even know they have this ability. Lisa felt a surge of excitement mixed with fear. If Amy was right, if there were other people with atmospheric sensitivity scattered across Earth, maybe they had a chance after all. Amy, get back to base immediately. We need to find these other people and we need to do it fast. As Amy's plane descended toward the airfield, War Commander Zethkar was studying the readings from his ship's sensors. Something unexpected had happened during the encounter with the primitive aircraft. His atmospheric control beam had been deflected by what appeared to be a natural wind current, but the timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Lieutenant, analyze the atmospheric disturbance that affected our targeting system, he ordered. Sir, the data is confusing. It appears to have been a localized wind shear, but it formed in a pattern that contradicts all known meteorological principles. Zethkar studied the data with growing concern. In all their conquests, the Corvani had never encountered anything like this. Atmospheric control was their greatest weapon, perfected over thousands of years and countless worlds. The idea that primitives could interfere with their systems was absurd. Increase atmospheric pressure over their major population centers, he commanded. Show them the futility of resistance. But as his ships began their demonstration, Zethkar couldn't shake the feeling that something on this world was different. Something the Corvani had never encountered before. On Earth, Amy Carter landed her fighter jet with a new understanding of her abilities and a terrible knowledge of what humanity was facing. The aliens could control weather through technology, but they didn't understand it the way she did. They were powerful, but they weren't connected to the atmosphere the way humans could be. It might not be enough to save Earth, but it was a start. Dr. Lisa Stone stood in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by the most powerful people in America. President Carol Webb sat at the head of the table, her face showing the strain of leading a planet under alien threat. General Adams was there, along with military leaders from around the world connected by video link. Dr. Stone, the president said, explain to us again what you think we can do against ships that can control our weather. Lisa took a deep breath. Mom, the aliens are using technology to force atmospheric changes, but humans like Amy Carter can connect with weather systems naturally. We think there are others like her around the world. How many others? Asked General Adams. We don't know yet, but Amy sensed them during her encounter with the alien ship. Based on our research, maybe one person in every 10,000 has this ability. Most don't even know they have it. So you're talking about maybe 30,000 people worldwide, the president asked. Possibly. But here's the important part. If we can connect these people together, combine their abilities, we might be able to interfere with the alien weather control systems. General Adams shook his head. Doctor, even if you find all these people, how do you connect minds across the planet? We don't have that technology. Lisa smiled for the first time in days. Actually, we do. Dr. Ben Wright from Johns Hopkins has been working on brain-to-brain communication systems, and Dr. Kate Ross at MIT has developed quantum consciousness theories that could make it work on a large scale. You want to build a network of human minds? The president asked. Yes, ma'am. The Skylink protocol. If it works, we could coordinate weather-sensitive humans across the entire planet. The president was quiet for a long moment. Outside, they could hear thunder from another alien-created storm. How long do you need? 72 hours to set up the basic system. But we need to start finding the weather-sensitive people immediately. You have whatever resources you need, President Webb said. God help us all. Alex Chen had been working without sleep for 2 days straight. As the military's top computer specialist, he was responsible for building the technical side of the Skylink system. The concept was simple in theory, but incredibly complex in practice. Create a network that could connect human minds across thousands of miles. The quantum entanglement communicators are ready, reported Dr. Kate Ross over the video link from MIT. Each device can maintain stable connections with up to 50 other units. Brainwave synchronization equipment is tested and working, added Dr. Ben Wright from his lab in Baltimore. We can monitor and enhance the natural connections between weather-sensitive individuals. Alex rubbed his tired eyes. The computer systems are ready too. We can coordinate the entire network from the main hub here at the base. But we still need the people to make it work around the world. Military teams were frantically searching for individuals with atmospheric sensitivity. The search was based on Amy Carter's description of the feeling she had sensed. Other minds that seemed connected to weather patterns. In Kansas, they found Joe Morris, a crop duster pilot who had an uncanny ability to predict storms hours before weather services detected them. Joe had always thought it was just experience, but when the military team explained what was happening, he volunteered immediately. My grandfather used to say he could smell rain 3 days away, Joe told the recruitment team. Maybe it runs in families in Florida. Dr. Helen Gray was a meteorologist who had been tracking hurricanes for 15 years. She had always felt strangely connected to the storm she studied, as if she could sense their moods and intentions. When the government team found her, she was already packed and ready to help. "I've been waiting my whole career for someone to take my theories seriously," she said. "If minds can connect to weather systems, it explains so much about what I've observed." The most surprising discovery came from Oklahoma. Danny Lewis was only 16 years old, but he had been chasing storms with his father since he was 12. Danny didn't just photograph tornadoes. He seemed to know exactly where they would form and how they would move. "I can feel them spinning up," Danny explained to the amazed scientists. "It's like the air gets excited before a twister forms. I thought everyone could sense it." "Son," said the team leader, "you might be one of the most powerful, weather-sensitive individuals we've found." At the main command center, Colonel Steve Park was coordinating the global search effort. Reports were coming in from every continent. Weather-sensitive individuals were being identified in Australia, Japan, Brazil, Norway, and dozens of other countries. "We have 43 confirmed individuals so far," Steve reported to Lisa, "but we're getting reports of many more. Some people are calling in after hearing about the project on the news." Lisa nodded, studying the world map showing locations of discovered individuals. "We need at least 100 for the network to be effective. How much time do we have?" Her question was answered by urgent alarm. On the main screen, satellite images showed the alien ships beginning another demonstration of power. This time, they were creating a massive hurricane in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Not during hurricane season, and not in a place where hurricanes naturally form. "They're showing us they can create extreme weather anywhere, anytime," General Adams said grimly. "I think they're getting ready to make their final ultimatum." Amy Carter was at the main base, helping to test the first prototype Skylink connection. She wore a special headset that monitored her brain waves while connecting her to the quantum communication system across the country. Joe Morris and Dr. Helen Gray were wearing identical equipment. "Amy, can you sense the others?" Dr. Ben Wright asked from his monitoring station. Amy closed her eyes and concentrated. At first, there was nothing. Then, slowly, she began to feel something new. It was like hearing distant voices in another room. She knew someone was there, but couldn't make out the words. "I feel them," she said quietly. "Joe feels like steady strength, like a rock in a stream. Helen feels like curiosity and intelligence, like she's always thinking about how things work. This is incredible," Dr. Wright said, watching the brainwave patterns on his screens. "The quantum entanglement is allowing direct mind-to-mind contact. Joe, Helen, can you hear Amy?" Lisa asked over the communication system. "I can sense her." Joe's voice came through clearly. "It's like flying formation, but with minds instead of planes." "Fascinating," Helen added. "I can feel both of your connections to atmospheric systems. It's much stronger when we're linked together." Lisa felt a surge of hope. "Amy, can you try to influence weather while you're connected to the others outside the base?" A small cloud was drifting across the sky. Amy reached out with her mind, and this time she wasn't alone. She could feel Joe's steady strength supporting her efforts, and Helen's scientific understanding guiding the process. The cloud began to change shape, forming a perfect spiral pattern that lasted for several minutes before returning to normal. "It worked," Dr. Wright shouted. "The combined effect is much more powerful than individual abilities." But their celebration was cut short by another alarm. The alien ships were moving, descending lower in the atmosphere and positioning themselves over major cities around the world. "They're preparing for something big," Colonel Park reported. "All ships are taking attack positions high above New York City." War Commander Zethkar was studying the reports from his science officers. The atmospheric disturbances they had detected were becoming more frequent and more organized. Something on Earth was interfering with their weather control systems. War Commander, his lieutenant reported, "We're detecting coordinated resistance to our atmospheric manipulation. The interference appears to be coming from multiple locations simultaneously." Zethkar's expression darkened. "In thousands of conquests, the Corvani had never encountered organized atmospheric resistance. Their technology was supposed to be absolute, impossible. No organic species has ever developed atmospheric control capabilities. Their brains are too primitive for such complex tasks, sir." The data suggests otherwise. The interference patterns show signs of intelligence and coordination. Zethkar stood up from his command chair. Then we end this immediately. Begin full atmospheric assault. Show these primitives what real weather control looks like. On Earth, the Skylink network was expanding rapidly. Danny Lewis had just been connected from Oklahoma, and his raw power was immediately obvious to everyone in the network. Ho, Amy said, feeling Danny's mind join the group. He's like a lightning rod for storm energy. I can feel all of you now. Danny's young voice came through the speakers. This is amazing. It's like being part of a thunderstorm that thinks. But their wonder was interrupted by urgent warnings from around the world. The alien ships were creating weather disasters on a scale never seen before. Tornadoes were forming over London, blizzards were hitting tropical regions, and hurricanes were spinning up over landlocked areas. They're not just demonstrating anymore, General Adams said grimly. This is the real attack. Lisa looked at the network monitoring displays. They had 78 weather-sensitive individuals connected now, scattered across 6 continents. It wasn't the 100 she had hoped for, but it would have to be enough. Amy, we need to try coordinating the entire network, Lisa said. Can you reach out to all of them at once? Amy nodded, though she looked nervous. I'll try. Everyone, focus on the weather systems the aliens are creating. Don't try to stop them directly. That's too much power for us. Instead, try to confuse them. Make the patterns irregular. Around the world, 78 human minds reached out through the Skylink network and touched the alien weather systems. They couldn't overpower the massive technological forces, but they could introduce chaos into the rigid patterns. The alien-created tornado over London suddenly began spinning into directions at once, causing it to collapse, the blizzard hitting. Brazil started dropping warm snow that melted before it hit the ground. The artificial hurricane in the Pacific began forming square-shaped eye walls. That made no meteorological sense. It's working. Dr. Helen Gray's excited voice came through the network. We're disrupting their control systems by introducing natural chaos into their artificial patterns. War Commander Zethkar stared at his control screens in disbelief. Every weather system his ships were creating was failing in impossible ways. Storms were behaving in patterns that violated the laws of physics as the Corvani understood them. What is happening to our atmospheric control? He demanded. Sir, something is interfering with our systems. The weather patterns are being altered by forces we cannot identify or counteract. For the first time in his career, Zethkar felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. The primitive humans were somehow fighting back against Corvani technology that had conquered entire galaxies. Impossible, he whispered. But the evidence was right in front of him. On Earth, the Skylink network was holding together, but just barely. The strain of coordinating so many minds across such distances was enormous. We can't keep this up much longer, Amy said through gritted teeth. The network is stable, but we're all getting exhausted. You bought us time, Lisa said. The aliens are confused. They don't understand what's happening to their weather control. Danny Lewis's young voice came through the network, filled with determination. Maybe we can't stop them, but we sure can make them confused, and confused enemies make mistakes. As the first day of the Skylink network came to an end, both sides were learning new things about each other. The Corvani were discovering that organic minds could achieve things their technology couldn't understand. The humans were discovering that their greatest strength wasn't individual power, but their ability to work together in ways that transcended normal limitations. The real battle was just beginning. The sky above Earth had been wrong for 3 days. Colors that had no names shifted through the clouds. Lightning struck upward from the ground to the heavens. Rain fell in perfect geometric patterns that hurt to look at. War Commander Zethkar had brought his entire invasion fleet to Earth's atmosphere, and they were reshaping the planet's weather into something alien and terrible. Amy Carter stood in the command center, her eyes closed and her mind connected to 147 other humans around the world. The Skylink network had grown beyond Dr. Lisa Stone's wildest hopes. People with weather sensitivity were volunteering faster than they could be connected to the system. Amy, we're getting reports of Category 6 hurricanes forming over the Great Lakes, Colonel Steve Park called out. That's meteorologically impossible, but they're doing it anyway. Amy nodded without opening her eyes. Through the network, she could feel the massive artificial storms the aliens were creating. Each one was like a scream in the atmosphere. Unnatural forces twisted into shapes that made the sky itself seem to be in pain. I can sense them. Amy said quietly, the alien weather systems, they're incredibly powerful, but they're all wrong. It's like someone trying to play music by hitting a piano with a hammer. Dr. Benwright monitored the brainwave patterns from his station. The network is stable, but we're seeing stress indicators in several participants. This level of coordination is pushing human consciousness to its limits. We don't have a choice. General Adams said grimly, look at the satellite images. The main screen showed her from space, but it barely looked like the same planet. Massive storm systems covered entire continents, spinning in impossible directions. The polarized caps were surrounded by tropical heat waves. Desert regions were buried under snow that glowed with unnatural light. They're not just attacking us, Dr. Lisa Stone realized. They're terraforming the entire planet, changing our atmosphere into something that works for them instead of us. War Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the planet below with growing frustration. His atmospheric control systems were more powerful than anything the Corvani had ever built, designed to reshape entire worlds in a matter of days. While Earth was fighting back in ways that made no sense, report, he commanded his science officer. War Commander, our weather modification systems are operating at maximum efficiency, but we continue to experience interference. The atmospheric disruptions are becoming more sophisticated and coordinated. Show me the pattern analysis. The display screen filled with data that made Zethkar's skin change color with anger. The interference wasn't random anymore. It was intelligent, adaptive, and getting stronger with each passing hour, sir. It appears the humans have developed some form of organic atmospheric control network. They're using biological consciousness to interfere with our technological systems. Impossible, Zethkar snarled. Organic minds cannot achieve planetary-scale atmospheric manipulation. It violates every principle of physics and consciousness theory. Nevertheless, sir, the evidence is clear. They're somehow linking multiple minds together and using collective consciousness to disrupt our weather patterns. Zethkar was quiet for a long moment. In his 1,000 years of life, he had conquered 4 to 7 worlds. He had seen species with advanced technology, others with powerful weapons, and some with remarkable intelligence. But he had never encountered anything like this. If they want to test their primitive consciousness against Corvani technology, he said finally, then we will show them why mechanical precision always defeats organic chaos. Begin the final phase. Full atmospheric conversion. On Earth, the Skylink network felt the change immediately. Rachel Morgan, a fighter pilot who had joined the network 2 days ago, was the first to sense the shift. Something's different, Rachel said through the network connection. The alien weather systems just got much more aggressive. Tim Brooks, a storm researcher from Colorado, agreed. I'm seeing it too. They're not just creating individual storms anymore. They're trying to change the entire atmospheric composition of the planet. Amy felt it as well. A massive surge of alien power that made her head spin. Everyone, they're doing something huge. All their ships are working together now. Dr. Helen Gray's voice came through from Florida, tight with concern. If they succeed in converting our atmosphere, it won't matter if we can disrupt their individual weather systems. The entire planet will become uninhabitable for humans. Lisa Stone was watching the global weather monitors with growing horror. Temperature readings were changing by degrees every few minutes. Atmospheric pressure was fluctuating wildly. Ocean currents were reversing direction. They're trying to turn Earth into a copy of their homeworld, she said. We need to do more than just disrupt their systems. We need to stop them completely. How? Amy asked. Their ships aren't powerful. Even with the entire network, we can't match their technology. It was Danny Lewis, the 16-year-old storm chaser, who came up with the answer. His young voice cut through the network with surprising clarity. We don't need to match their power, Danny said. We need to turn it against itself. Amy, remember what you said about them being like someone hitting a piano with a hammer? What if we could make them hit the wrong keys? Amy opened her eyes. For the first time in hours. Danny, what are you thinking? Their weather control is incredibly powerful, but rigid. They create patterns and expect those patterns to stay exactly the same. But what if we could make their own systems interfere with each other? Dr. Kate Ross, monitoring the network from MIT, immediately understood feedback loops. If we can create interference patterns that resonate with their control frequencies, we might be able to cause their systems to conflict with each other. Can we do that? Amy asked. "We can try," said Joe Mars from Kansas, "but it will take perfect coordination from the entire network, and we'll need to time it exactly right." Lisa looked at the global situation display. They were running out of time. The alien atmospheric conversion was accelerating in some regions. "We're already becoming uninhabitable. Amy, you're the primary coordinator. Can you guide the network through something this complex?" Amy took a deep breath. Through the Skylink connection, she could feel the minds of 147 other humans, all ready to follow her lead. The responsibility was terrifying, but she couldn't let fear stop her now. "Everyone, listen carefully," Amy said through the network. "We're going to try something that's never been done before. We're going to use the aliens' own power against them." Around the world, the Skylink network prepared for their most ambitious attempt yet. In Kansas, Joe Mars felt the familiar calm that came before a dangerous storm. In Florida, Helen Gray reviewed the atmospheric data one more time, looking for the perfect moment to strike. In Oklahoma, Danny Lewis closed his eyes and reached out with his mind toward the massive alien weather systems. "I can feel their main control frequency," Danny reported. "It's like a heartbeat in the atmosphere. If we can match that rhythm and then suddenly change it, their systems will try to correct the interference," Helen finished. "But if we time it right, the corrections will interfere with each other." Amy nodded. "On my signal, everyone reach out to the nearest alien weather system. Don't try to stop it. Instead, amplify it, but change the rhythm slightly. Make it pulse just a little bit faster than it wants to." War Commander Zethkar was watching the atmospheric conversion progress. When the first alarms began sounding, his science officer rushed to the control station. His expression confused. "Sir, we're detecting massive resonance fluctuations in our weather control systems. All our atmospheric modification devices are reporting synchronization errors." "What kind of errors, sir?" "It appears our control frequencies are being amplified and modified by an external source. The interference is causing our systems to work against each other." On the main display, Zethkar could see what was happening. His perfectly coordinated weather systems were beginning to conflict. Storms were crashing into each other, creating chaos instead of the ordered atmospheric conversion he had planned. "Impossible," he whispered. "They're using our own power against us on Earth." The Skylink network was pushing itself beyond all limits. Amy felt like she was trying to conduct an orchestra while riding a lightning bolt. Every mind in the network was focused on the same task, amplifying and redirecting the alien weather control systems. "It's working," Rachel Morgan shouted through the connection. "The alien storms over Europe are canceling each other out. Same here in the Pacific," reported Tim Brooks. "Their hurricane systems are creating interference patterns that are tearing themselves apart." But the effort was taking its toll. Several network participants were experiencing severe mental strain. Dr. Wright was calling out warnings about dangerous brainwave spikes. "Amy, we can't maintain this level of coordination much longer," he warned. "Just a little more," Amy replied through gritted teeth. "I could feel their main control system starting to destabilize." High above Earth, War Commander Zethkar watched in disbelief as his invasion fleet's weather control systems began failing catastrophically. Atmospheric processors that had worked perfectly for thousands of years were suddenly producing chaotic, conflicting results. "All ships, emergency shutdown of weather modification systems," he commanded. "Sir, we cannot shut down. The human interference has created feedback loops in our control matrices. Our systems are locked in resonance patterns that we cannot break." Zethkar felt something he had never experienced in his long life: helplessness. The primitive humans had somehow turned his greatest weapon into his greatest weakness. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Sir, they appear to be using collective organic consciousness to create interference patterns that explode. It's the harmonic frequencies of our atmospheric control technology. It's theoretically impossible, but the evidence is undeniable." On Earth, Amy Carter stood at the center of a storm of human consciousness unlike anything that had ever existed. 147 minds working as one, reaching out across the planet to touch systems that no organic being should have been able to affect. "Now," Amy shouted through the network, "everyone, push as hard as you can. Make their systems fight each other." The Skylink network responded as one. Across the globe, alien weather control systems began experiencing massive feedback loops. Storms that were meant to reshape continents instead began tearing themselves apart. The artificial atmospheric conversion ground to a halt as the alien Systems fought against their own conflicting signals. War Commander Zethkar watched his invasion plans crumble in real time. His weather control systems, the pride of Corvani technology, were destroying themselves because organic minds had learned to make them dance to a different rhythm. Sir, we're losing control of all atmospheric modification systems. The human interference has created cascade failures throughout the fleet. Zethkar closed his eyes. For the first time in his military career, he was facing an enemy that his technology could not defeat. The humans had found a way to use consciousness itself as a weapon. Prepare for emergency withdrawal, he said quietly. We retreat to high orbit and reassess. As the alien ships began pulling back from Earth's atmosphere, the Skylink network finally allowed itself to rest. Amy Carter collapsed into a chair, exhausted but victorious. Did we do it? She asked weakly. Lisa Stone looked at the global weather monitors. The alien storms were dissipating, and natural weather patterns were slowly returning to normal. You did it, Lisa said with tears in her eyes. All of you saved the world. But even as they celebrated, everyone knew this was just the first victory. The aliens were still out there, still dangerous and still determined to take Earth. The Skylink network had proven that human consciousness could achieve the impossible. But the real test was still to come. 1 week had passed since the alien fleet retreated to high orbit, and Earth was holding its breath. The Skylink network remained active, now connecting over 100 weather-sensitive humans across the globe. Amy Carter had not left the command center in 3 days, her mind permanently linked to the atmospheric systems that surrounded their planet. They're planning something, Amy said, her eyes still closed as she monitored the alien ships far above. I can feel disturbances in the upper atmosphere. They're testing our defenses. Looking for weaknesses, Dr. Lisa Stone studied the readouts from Amy's brain monitoring equipment. The changes in Amy's neural patterns over the past week were extraordinary. Her connection to Earth's atmosphere had grown so strong that she seemed to be becoming part of the planet's weather systems themselves. Amy, your brain scans are showing activity patterns we've never seen before, Lisa said with concern. You're pushing the limits of human consciousness. I have to, Amy replied. I can sense what they're really planning now. They're not just trying to control our weather anymore. They're preparing to attack the atmosphere itself. War Commander Zethkar stood in his private chambers aboard the flagship, studying reports that challenged everything he believed about the universe. His science officers had spent the week analyzing the human atmospheric interference, and their conclusions were disturbing. The humans are not using technology, his chief scientist reported. They are achieving atmospheric control through pure consciousness projection. According to our models, this should be impossible for any organic species, yet they did it. Zethkar said bitterly. They turned our own weapons against us using nothing but their minds. Sir, there is more. Our analysis suggests that their abilities are still growing. The interference patterns are becoming more sophisticated each day. If this continues, they may achieve total atmospheric dominance. Zethkar turned to face his officer. Total dominance? You mean they could control an entire planet's atmosphere through consciousness alone? Theoretically, yes, sir. And if that happens, no technological weather control system in the galaxy would be able to function in their presence. For the first time in his long military career, Zethkar felt fear, not fear of defeat, but fear of the impossible becoming real. If the humans achieved true atmospheric consciousness, they would possess a power that no race in the galaxy had ever imagined. Prepare the atmospheric disruptor cannon, he commanded. We end this before they can grow stronger. On Earth, the Skylink network was evolving in ways that surprised even Dr. Lisa Stone. New participants were joining every day, and their combined abilities were creating effects that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Rachel Morgan was flying patrol over the Pacific when she first noticed the change. Amy, are you feeling this? The connection is different today, stronger. I feel it too. Amy replied through the network. It's like the atmosphere itself is becoming part of our consciousness. Tim Brooks, monitoring weather systems from Colorado, confirmed what they were all sensing. The natural weather patterns are responding to our presence. Storms are forming where we need them. Winds are shifting to support our network connections. It's as if the planet's atmosphere is alive and working with us. Dr. Helen Gray was studying the phenomenon from her station in Florida. This goes beyond anything we understood about consciousness and matter interaction. We're not just connected to the atmosphere anymore, we're becoming integrated with it. Danny Lewis, the young storm chaser who had become one of the network's most powerful participants. Put it in simpler terms, it feels like the sky is learning to think. Lisa Stone was frantically taking notes, trying to understand what was happening to the human participants. The quantum consciousness fields are stabilizing at levels we never thought possible. It's as if human minds and atmospheric systems are finding a natural resonance frequency. General Adams watched the developments with a mixture of awe and concern. Dr. Stone, what are the implications of this? What are our people becoming? I don't know. Lisa admitted, we're in completely uncharted territory. Human consciousness is achieving things that our science says should be impossible. High above Earth, Zethkara's flagship was preparing its most powerful weapon. The atmospheric disruptor cannon was designed to tear apart a planet's entire atmospheric layer, leaving the surface exposed to the vacuum of space. It was a weapon of last resort, used only when complete planetary sterilization was required, sir. The atmospheric disruptor is charged and ready, his weapons officer reported. Target the primary population centers, Zethkar commanded. If we cannot control their atmosphere, we will destroy it entirely. The massive weapon began to power up, drawing energy from the ship's core reactor. In 30 minutes, it would fire a beam capable of shredding Earth's atmosphere like paper. Amy Carter felt the weapon charging from 200 miles away. The sensation was like a cold knife being pressed against her consciousness, a threat, directed not just at humanity, but at the living atmosphere she had become part of. Everyone. Emergency alert, Amy called through the Skylink network. They have some kind of weapon pointed at our atmosphere. I can feel it charging up. What kind of weapon? Asked Joe Mars from Kansas. Something that feels like it's designed to destroy the entire atmospheric layer. If they fire it, there won't be any air left to breathe. Lisa Stone felt her blood turn cold. How long do we have? Maybe 30 minutes, Amy replied. But I don't think we can stop something that powerful with atmospheric manipulation alone. Then we don't try to stop it, said Danny Lewis, his young voice carrying a wisdom that surprised everyone. We become something it can't destroy. What do you mean? Amy asked. You said the atmosphere is learning to think, right? What if we help it learn faster? What if we don't just connect to the atmosphere, but merge with it completely? Dr. Ben Wright's voice came from the monitoring station, filled with alarm. The brainwave readings are off the charts. Whatever you're planning, it's pushing human consciousness beyond all known limits. Sometimes you have to go beyond limits to save everything you care about, Amy said quietly. Around the world, the Skylink network began the most ambitious attempt. In human history, 203 minds reached out simultaneously, not just to connect with atmospheric systems, but to become part of them entirely. Amy Carter felt her consciousness expand beyond the boundaries of her physical body. She could sense every air molecule above North America, feel every wind current and pressure system as if they were part of her own body. But she wasn't alone. She could feel Joe Morris becoming one with the storm systems over the Great Plains, Helen Gray merging with the hurricane patterns in the Atlantic, and Danny Lewis joining with the tornado formations across the Midwest. I can feel all of you, Amy said, though she wasn't sure if she was speaking aloud anymore. We're becoming the sky itself. The transformation was spreading across the globe. Rachel Morgan merged with the jet streams over the Pacific. Tim Brooks became part of the mountain wind patterns in Colorado. One by one, every member of the Skylink network abandoned the boundaries of individual consciousness and became part of Earth's living atmosphere. War Commander Zethkar watched his instruments with growing disbelief. What are the sensors showing, sir? The entire planetary atmosphere is exhibiting unified consciousness patterns. The humans appear to have achieved total integration with their planet's atmospheric systems. Fire the disruptor cannon immediately, sir. The weapon is charged and ready. But what, sir? The atmospheric readings are unlike anything we've ever encountered. The entire atmospheric layer is behaving like a single, conscious entity. The atmospheric disruptor cannon fired, sending a beam of pure destructive energy toward Earth's atmosphere. It was a weapon that had destroyed the skies of dozens of worlds, reducing entire planets to airless rocks. But when the beam struck Earth's atmosphere, something impossible happened. The atmosphere didn't shred apart as expected. Instead, it absorbed the energy and redirected it, turning the destructive force into something else entirely. Amy Carter, now existing as part of the planetary atmosphere, felt the alien weapon strike like a lightning bolt. But instead of destroying her, the energy merged with her consciousness. making her stronger. "We're not just controlling the atmosphere anymore," she said, her voice somehow speaking from every wind current on Earth. "We are the atmosphere." The Skylink network, now truly linked not through technology, but through shared existence with Earth's atmospheric systems, reached out toward the alien ships. They didn't need to overpower the Corvani technology anymore. They simply made the space around the ships part of themselves. War Commander Zethkar felt his ship shudder as the atmosphere around it began to change. The vacuum of space was somehow becoming filled with conscious air that responded to human will. "Sir, the humans are extending their atmospheric control into space itself. They're creating localized atmosphere pockets around our ships. That's impossible. Atmosphere cannot exist in vacuum. Nevertheless, sir, our ships are now surrounded by conscious atmospheric fields that are interfering with all our systems." Zethkar watched in horror as his fleet was enveloped by impossible clouds that thought and acted with purpose. The humans hadn't just achieved atmospheric control. They had transcended the normal boundaries of matter and consciousness. "Sir, all weapon systems are failing. The conscious atmosphere is disrupting our technology at the molecular level." Amy Carter's voice somehow reached every Corvani ship simultaneously, speaking through the impossible atmospheric fields that now surrounded them. War Commander Zethkar, her voice said, carried by wind that should not exist in space. "You said that minds cannot control planets. You were wrong. Our minds don't just control our planet's sky. We have become it." Through the atmospheric connection, Amy could sense the alien commander's thoughts, his fear, his disbelief, his sudden understanding that humanity had achieved something no race in the galaxy had ever imagined possible. "Your technology tried to control atmosphere from the outside," Amy continued, "but we learned to become part of it from within. Now every breath of air on Earth, every wind current, every storm, every pressure system responds to our consciousness because we are no longer separate from them." Zethkar realized that his invasion was not just failing. It was encountering something that challenged the fundamental understanding of what was possible in the universe. Organic consciousness had achieved technological transcendence through integration rather than domination. "We withdraw," he said quietly to his fleet. "Inform the Empire that this world is to be marked as forbidden territory." "Sir, what shall we tell them about why we're retreating?" Zethkar looked at the impossible atmospheric fields surrounding his ships, filled with human consciousness that had somehow learned to exist in the vacuum of space. "Tell them the truth. We encountered a species that achieved planetary consciousness through atmospheric integration. Tell them that humans don't just live on their world. They have become their world." As the Corvani fleet retreated beyond Earth's solar system, the members of the Skylink network began the process of returning to individual consciousness. But they would never be the same. Each of them retained a permanent connection to Earth's atmospheric systems, able to sense and influence weather patterns in ways that would reshape humanity's relationship with their planet. Amy Carter opened her eyes in the command center for the first time in days, but part of her consciousness remained forever connected to the sky above. "It's over," she said simply. Dr. Lisa Stone looked at the atmospheric readings, which showed weather patterns more stable and healthy than they had been in decades. "Amy, what have you all become?" "We become what we always had the potential to be," Amy replied. "We're still human, but we're also part of something larger now. We're the guardians of Earth's sky." The word spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Earth was now known as the world where organic minds had achieved the impossible, where consciousness had transcended individual limitations to become one with planetary systems. The Corvani Empire, for the first time in its history, marked a world as permanently off limits. But on Earth, life continued with a new understanding. Weather disasters became a thing of the past, as the Skylink network guided storms away from populated areas and ensured that climate patterns remained stable and healthy. Humanity had not only defended their world, but had evolved into something new, a species that existed in harmony with the very air they breathed. Amy Carter stood on the observation deck of the command center, watching clouds form perfect spirals. In the sky above, she could feel the consciousness of her fellow network members in every wind current, sense their presence in every weather pattern. They had proven that human potential knew no bounds, that consciousness could achieve what technology alone never could. They had saved their world not through superior weapons or advanced machines, but by becoming one with the planet they called home. The sky belonged to humanity now, not through conquest, but through unity and across the galaxy, other species would whisper about the impossible humans who had taught the universe. That consciousness and matter could become one.